Yeah, so I just had a second person outreach in the middle of this, just popped up on LinkedIn. I was like, took a look at it. I'm like, fascinating.
You suck.
Don't hate me.
No, I
Hate
won't hate
the,
you.
don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, I won't hate you. Okay, oh shit, we're still recording all this. Okay, well, we might as well get on with the episode. It's still gonna be mainly the typical Vanessa format where I just go off in tangents and you guys try to get a word in edgewise, but, because you know how I am. But, so,
And we love you for it.
well, thank you. Thank you. I love you. I love both of you. You two are my booze. My boozies. Boozies. I need some booze. Fuck. Okay. That's one of the best things for vocal training is you
Mm.
do that and it moves your voice to the front of your mouth. And then after you do that for a little bit, you start saying the words that you want to say and it comes out like magical. It's really crazy. If you go higher, they'll come out higher. So drop on email trans. It's kind of crazy. And then you get stuck like that for a little bit. So you have to go a little bit lower. So vocal training, it's a bitch. So
That should be
okay.
an episode on itself.
Yeah, we should do one. I'm sure we could get one of the many vocal trainers to like
For
Seattle
sure.
Voice Labs or one of those on here. So I do mine actually through Cleveland Clinic, which is kind of nice because it's all under insurance. But um, okay, you two ready?
Let's do it.
Welcome back to another episode of Transcending Humanity. I believe this is episode 18 already, which just it blows my mind how many of these that we have. This episode, it's kind of a follow-up to the Leo and Erica episode about trans equity in the workplace. This one is about job hunting while transgender, which is super fun. I've been doing it for quite some time, so yeah. Where did my brain go? Why does my brain keep doing this? Am I going to leave this in or am I going to cut it out? I don't know. So yeah, we're following up on job hunting. Just it's a very topical thing for me because I have been searching for a remote career for a year and a half now, and I'm at least 1,500 resumes in, and it's been a giant pain in the ass. So I kind of figured I'd do an episode on this. So because I know I'm not alone. Job hunting is hard, period. Especially with corporate layoffs going on left and right. And the few positions that are available online, you're up against thousands, not just hundreds, thousands of other applicants. And I do not envy the recruiting teams to try to sift through all that stuff. So unfortunately, you are subject to the whims of the ATS systems. I guess that's kind of a redundancy, ATS systems, applicant tracking systems, that if you don't have everything exactly how they want to see in your resume, it just gets thrown out. So, how many wonderful candidates have been thrown out because of that? How many of mine have been thrown out because of that? Who knows? But I I understand why they have to do it. But so my notes on our script here says Vanessa goes all Vanessa about the job market, and I think I just did that. So yay me. Um, this week, we're going to talk about the unique challenges that folks under the trans umbrella. When I use the word trans, I use that to incorporate everybody under that trans spectrum. So, transgender, either the binary, non binary, and gender nonconforming. So, just to make things easier, when I say trans, I mean everybody in that little blue, pink, and white rainbow. So, um, we're going to be talking about the difficulties that we have while searching for a career. And we also have a quick segment where we are joined by one of our listeners, Blair, who popped on. I'm going to be inserting that here for you to listen to. And I would love to be able to do more of these little short 5-minute listener interviews in the future as well. If you would like to pop onto an episode sometime and say hi and just share your thoughts. So um, that's enough of me taking over the microphone. Today, I am joined by Rylie and Taryn. I'm hoping that my video setup here makes sense. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be pointing all over the place. So, Rylie and Taryn, say hi. Do some plugs. Look cute. What's on your mind? What's going on?
I was going to say for me, I love this episode because right now I'm kind of headed back on the market. You know, I think I'm on my third job right now since coming out. And Vanessa, I totally echo what you were saying. Like in the Bay Area where I'm at, out tens of thousands laid off. And it just makes it that much harder and that much more competitive, right? To get even an opportunity and to break in. But I also had like when I first came out in 2019, I did get some advice in I think it was early 2020 on how to kind of present and how to apply and how to modify your LinkedIn profile and stuff like that. So people who might not be out, I do have some tips and tricks that might help, right? And because you want to be seen, you don't want to like surprise someone. You want to be seen as you,
Yeah,
in the beginning of the process, right? And set that expectation. So happy to share that stuff.
I mean, hey, I'm definitely at least 2 months into my job now. But in the past year, I've had to job hunt twice due to my position being eliminated. Um, so that, has been a fun time. And like finally, since yesterday was the first, I actually now have insurance again. So that's exciting. Crossing
yay!
crossing that threshold.
Oh, that
Um,
has to be a load off.
Oh my goodness. I got the cards in the mail like last week and I was just like, oh, it's I can almost taste it. I can almost taste if I have to go to the hospital, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
um so, just all the fun hurdles of finding a company that has, inclusive healthcare and all that fun stuff while job hunting. Just those sorts of things and just kind of want to talk a little bit on those things as well.
It makes you want to pull your hair out, and you're bald, so you must have done it already.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
I mean,
waiting.
I'm not gonna lie though, I did have a substantial more hair before I lost both jobs.
I
Um,
mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, stress does that, and stress sucks.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna do a little monologue here, and then I will get into discussion about it. So, we'll be talking for a little bit, but I just pulled up some information about job hunting and trans people in the workplace, which I believe Erica and Leo covered a lot. Again, listen to episode 14 as well. Amazing episode. And we have Leo Caldwell on that episode. So, that was fun. Um, just some notes here. According to the National Center for Transgender Equality, quote, more than 1 in 4 transgender people have lost a job due to bias, and more than 3/4 have experienced some form of workplace discrimination. Refusal to hire, privacy violations, harassment, and even physical and sexual violence in a job are common occurrences, and are experienced at even higher rates by transgender people of color. Many people report changing jobs to avoid discrimination or the risk of discrimination. Extreme levels of unemployment and poverty lead 1 in 8 to become involved in underground economies, such as sex and drug work, in order to survive, end quote. And I also found an article by an organization called McKinsey and Company. I'd never heard of them before. Maybe you too. Hopefully they're a decent company, but they found some interesting information on their website about being trans at work. Some of their findings, they found that transgender adults are twice as likely as cisgender adults to be unemployed. Okay. Cisgender employees make 32% more money a year than transgender employees, even when the latter have similar or higher education levels. It's like a whole secondary glass ceiling. More than half of transgender employees say that they're not comfortable being out at work. 2/3 remain in the closet in professional interactions outside of their own companies. People who identify as transgender feel far less supported in the workplace than their cisgender colleagues do. They report that it's more difficult to understand workplace culture and benefits and harder to get promoted. They also feel less supported by their managers. and greater transgender inclusion in the workforce would benefit everybody. Their research found that a concerted effort to increase employment and wage equity for transgender people could boost annual consumer spending by $12 billion a year. Given the more than 2 million transgender people in the US and the 1.2 million people who identify as non-binary, employers cannot continue to ignore a significant population that experiences systemic barriers to employment, work performance, and career progression. So that's two things I found that really kind of tie into this. What do you two think of that? It was a lot, but it's some pretty powerful information.
I mean, I feel like my own experience kind of mirrors exactly what you laid out, right? With so this is I'm on my third company right now, since coming out. So I moved to the Bay Area in 2018 to transition because I wanted that safe space.
Yeah.
An opportunity popped up at I'd say a large OEM in the media streaming environment. So I moved out to Los Gatos in Campbell in California and started working there, thinking that California was just a safe place, and I'd be fine. And having members of my own team kind of use not really inclusive language or ridicule my breast buds because I started on HRT but did not notify the employer. It made me go to jump. So whenever I experienced some kind of, I don't know, issue, harassment, abuse, I actually moved to the next job, right?
Good.
So I moved over and took a position in cosmetics in a subscription service that's in the Bay Area. I think I was their first trans hire, and it was after they had a very public, embarrassing Pride Month where they had a turf give makeup lessons and so the trans women were not women. So I think they had to go and hire a trans person to kind of mitigate that. So they started bringing in some gender nonconforming, non-binary, and trans people, and I was one of them.
You were the token.
I was the token. I think it was the first. It's like I got a COVID layoff, right? And then so I as I kind of shared with y'all on our Discord, I am just starting to do my gender marker change and my name change, right, through California, through the courts. It should be 3 months, but it'll be done. So I was in that weird place of transitioning and, so on HRT, dealing with Kaiser, breast growing, electrolysis, and looking for a job with an old LinkedIn profile. So in 2020, COVID layoff, I ended up, I think I took some courses and, I had some extra cash that I could do to make it through, right? So I had the privilege of, being able to save and have those resources. Started my job search 5 months later, got a job at a company that I really respected at the time. Was super excited. I was like, yay, I got this. I was looking forward to it. And almost immediately I ran into transphobic abuse. Somebody that I had to work for who was a white male who generated a lot of revenue for the company. And at the end of our calls with me and him, it was just, he would end it with, "Thank you, sir." And it was just little small aggressions like that. I mean, he berated me in front of my team about a month and a half into the job. I mean, it was pretty toxic, right? So once again, I was like, I'm dealing with all of this and having a PIP issued against me. So they were targeting me for elimination because of what he had done. And then I had a new opportunity in 2022 and I jumped. So I keep pivoting, for me, and I don't know if either one of you feel this way, but for me, on my third job right now doing it and then still dealing with the misgendering at this job. And I think I shared on social, Vanessa, I think you saw that where I had a visitor to our building from Europe, gendered me correctly and be extremely kind, walked into my office and two people I worked with for 18 months are like, "Yes, sir, what can I do for you?" And I'm just like,
come on.
I'm like, okay, it looks like it's time to move on, because I start thinking to myself, God, and it is still worth it to live in my authenticity. Even if I have to continue to experience this over and over and over and over again. I don't have what many people have, which is struggling to get a job, right, by coming out. And so your stories always touches me, right, with the decision you made and your implications. And I feel like I have a lot of privilege with mine, where I'm moving from job to job, but I'm still dealing with that stuff. So it's like now I've got that and I'm kind of priming for another move, right? And all I want is a place that just sees me as me and just respects me. Like I'm looking at a base level of respect. I'm like, you don't have to put me on a pedestal. You don't have to treat me like a warrior queen. Just be nice to me and be human. Like that's all I'm looking for, you know?
It's not
And I
much to
know that,
ask.
yeah, and I know I feel like I have privilege with that, right? So, but yeah, that's kind of my story, you know, just so everything that that McKinsey report says, I've been experiencing, right? Where it's just like that kind of, and having your own coworkers not even back you up on an HR investigation.
Hmm.
Like that was the other thing too. So it was like, I felt utterly alone, you know, and it's a bad place. And at the same
It
time, they
is.
were trying to punish me. They were asking me to talk to a potential new employee who's trans so I can make them feel better about it. So you know what I did? I told the truth because I prioritize my exactly, right? I prioritize my community over a business
Yeah.
because I'm like, I'm not going to lure somebody in here to experience what I experienced because it was like, it was upsetting. I mean, a friend of mine from that job was like, I don't know how you're surviving this. Like I'd be in tears every day. I'm like, I'm just warrioring up and just working through it and just keeping my head down and just doing what they're telling me to do and just trying to survive, you know?
But not everyone is able to do that either, though. So
Yeah.
you did the right thing. You could have protected somebody from some serious, serious harm. So
Yeah.
you did the right thing, definitely.
Community always comes first for us. Like I support every one of my sibs. And when I say that, I mean to the bitter end. As long as I'm breathing on this planet, I will be with y'all.
Oh, I mean, I definitely am in the same boat. I agree. I mean, I am very fortunate in the fact that I began my like social transition during my senior year of high school, and right out of that, right, like during that summer before I went off to college, was able to start testosterone. So like I essentially went into college fully presenting as male, and there wasn't very much questioning about it. You know, I had to send the emails to professors and things like that, but like even when I had to get a job on campus, I didn't have any questions about it. People were just like, "Oh, cool." And like, you know, like nobody really paid much mind. Even like when I was doing onboarding paperwork, it wasn't too obvious or anything. And I mean, especially after I had top surgery during my sophomore year of college, like I really was able to then like fully, you know, pass without question. There
Yeah.
was no like, oh, is the like a bearded woman or something like that. Like, so like, you know, for me, it was a lot, I guess, a lot easier than what trans women definitely go through. There is no questioning that trans men definitely have a little bit easier end on the spectrum here when it comes to at least the generalized of, you know, you get to a point where you're now passing to the point because of testosterone has given you a beard and you or you're lost enough hair or whatever the case may be. Like there is just all this the quick glance and you're just, oh yeah, hey, what's up, dude?
Hmm.
You know, no really question on it. um so like going into it for me, like it's more the do I feel safe coming out then in the work environment? And so
Yeah.
like most of my employers have not known that I was trans until actually after I left. So like I have an employer that I worked almost 2 years for, and I was working for them when COVID started. And the only person that knew was like one person on my team and like one person from another team. And that was it. I didn't even tell the HR. And now I actually am friends with the former HR person on like Facebook and a few other places. And they know now. And I'm like, I'm so glad you know because you should have known. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. You're such a great human being. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. But like, I know that they would have been that supportive in the first place, and I should have been that open with them. So, like, and it's not like they wouldn't have been supportive in any context outside of work or inside of work anyway. But, you know, like, I'm actively now in the position where I didn't used to be remotely active on LinkedIn about being trans. And, you know, it was just about a year ago, I believe, that I decided to go ahead and share that on LinkedIn. And it was right after I was let go from my job, the first position. And so, like, you know, it was just one of those things where I was looking for a job and I just decided to be openly trans on LinkedIn while looking for a job. And so I was absolutely terrified. And even when I did finally get a job, I still was very hesitant about talking about it in the workplace. And I'm pretty sure the only people who know from that job are the people who I have on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Um, so, it's still one of those things where I'm still very hesitant. And even though I'm like actively still kind of like here and there coming out to people in my current position, and like today, actually in the past like 2 weeks, I came out to a non-binary person we had just hired. And so it was like, hey, I want to let you know you are not alone here. So, and especially because they use they them pronouns. And like, I want to make sure that, it's not just like a, hey, I got your back because I'm an ally. It's like, hey, I got your back because I am with you in your community.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess I'll share my experiences. I've I came out just under 2 years ago now, and I've only really had one job. It was like this little part-time job, but it was owned by a non-binary person, which was nice. And for the most part, it was just me alone with them in the office. But it did branch off into a little retail thing that was helping get their retail company started. And for a few days, I worked with the employees that I had hired on to help there, and they were all very. It was a very, very, very queer place, which was amazing. But my actual income, what I do is I'm a real estate photographer. Um, I used to have my own LLC that I closed back in November, and it started off. I was able to get clients really easily before my transition. Back when I was known, I went by Jay. My dead name was Jeremy. I went by Jay, and so my company was called Photos by Jay, and I was able to very easily build up a network of clients of realtors in the Northeast Ohio area. And I would say at the height about 50 clients. I stayed pretty busy. My work spoke for itself. I was very good, but the world also saw me as a cishet white guy. When I came out, my business died instantaneously. I came out in October of 21, and I had a few gigs in November. And in December, I wound up having to do a GoFundMe in order to just feed myself because it just dried up completely. Realtors can be a very bigoted bunch, especially here in Ohio. And I found that out the very hard way. I was able to rebuild my business a little bit, nowhere near what it was, but I have a very strong, loyal client base that love me and I love them. But it is next to impossible for me to get new clients, which sucks because I'm completely dependent on my clients getting listings, and there just aren't many listings going in my area right now. So I went from making probably $5,000 a month when I was photographing as Jay to between 500 and $1,500 a month now, which is why I'm job hunting, because I'm just broke all the time. And I love real estate photography. I'm really, really fucking good at it. I'm I like to toot my own horn, but I know I'm the best real estate photographer in my area. But because the other ones just suck. So, but yeah, that's my history with being trans in the in the workplace, where I've been trans as self-employed, and it's hard if you have your own business. That's something that you have to keep in mind if you're going to come out. I know a bookshop owner that she has that same problem, that she didn't come out for a long time, and when she did, she lost most of her business as well. So it's stupid when I tell clients about it. The clients that are with me, they're like, "Why should that matter? You're just here to take photos. Why should being trans matter at all?" I'm like, it shouldn't, but I guess these agents don't want to send a message to their sellers that, oh, here's this big tranny walking in and taking pictures of their house. And no. So, yeah, that's my
Now,
experience.
it does matter. Yeah, I mean, it matters for these people. I mean, it's like last week I had a real good eye-opening about how prevalent the hate is in this country.
Yeah.
And I was in a foreign country and I still felt the American hate.
Do you want to
Yeah,
share
I
that
mean,
story?
yeah, I mean, I can share that
You can
story.
share it if you
So,
like.
so last week I was in Aruba for 10 days. So I had a really hectic year so far. And the first 7 months were just crazy busy, swamped. So I managed to squeeze in a 10-day vacation between the next set of work dropping off. And I was in Aruba. I stayed at the Hilton Resort, which on their website is an LGBTQ friendly resort. I underestimated how it was important for me because Aruba is supposed to be one of the most LGBTQ friendly, plus friendly islands in the Caribbean.
Mhm.
So I felt good in the resort like that. I didn't factor in the Americans. And on my first full day, I rented one of those little like grassy beach huts, palapa. So I rented one of those, and I mean, Vanessa knows this. I've got about 20 bikini tops. So I am out. I'm like laying out. I'm swimming, and I had a white family from the south sit behind me, and it was funny because she started saying stuff to the woman, and then she said something to her husband, and he kind of walked around and like took a good look at me to confirm that I'm a thing. And then they tried to either have me removed or them moved to a different spot, but they were all booked. So they just sat there with their arms crossed and their really dark sunglasses on, staring at me the entire time. So I just got up and left because I'm like, I just don't want to be around that,
No.
right? And then I went back to the rental place and I was like, um, I want one for tomorrow. Can you sit me not next to any Americans? And the guy was a Reuben, and he's like, "What is an American?" I'm like, "Oh, they've got European like names, but they speak very slowly, like they have a speech impediment. So like they're Southerners," I said, "and they're white." So he sent me next to more international people, and I had no problem. Like, people from South America, Central America,
Hmm.
and from the Caribbean, and it was fine. But still, as I walked through the resort, and I mean, looking like I do right now, and people were clutching their kids and bringing them close, right? Like I felt like it was kind of like felt like a monster in a
Hmm.
way, and it was adding stress. But I mean, I'll just tell you that that group of people, the rental people that helped me, they sent security and service staff to me every day and checked on me. They made sure it was okay. They said it was unacceptable for what I experienced, and they went out of their way to help me. So the people of Aruba were super kind. I mean, like they know not having my IDs changed. They asked me for what my name is. Like, what is your name?
Hmm.
And just like I felt seen, right? But then also like my own fellow citizens were horrible, absolutely horrible. So it's just something that in California, I always say to my girls that we're in a bubble here, right?
Yeah.
This is a trans sanctuary state. The Bay Area is super trans friendly. I mean, I don't experience a lot of looks or like I just blend right in.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting in this bubble and I forget that there are 30 states that would like to see us eradicated, corralled in camps, and maybe shocked into straightness.
Hmm.
And I saw a lot of that in a foreign country. And I mean, I go to countries that I hope I can escape Americans, right?
Yeah.
And I still can't. So it
There's no
makes it hard. I
escaping.
mean, and these vacations are not cheap, right? Like
No.
I rented something, I had to leave because somebody was intimidating me out,
Hmm.
right? And I just don't want to deal with it because it was their problem,
Yeah.
and it's just, and that kind of stuff is, those are the people. I love this. I saw this on social media years ago, but they're like, these are the people that are your pastor, the police officers in your community, the teachers, they're handing you your fries through a window, whatever it is, right? These are the people that we engage with every day.
Hmm.
And this is what they truly think. And this is what they truly do when they feel like they're empowered to do so, and that goes right into the job hunting, right? Like you will meet people like that in the job hunt. I mean, so far I've been really lucky. The last four, I think 4 jobs I had, I didn't even apply for it. They came to me. So, and I vet these things, like hardcore. I mean, I'm like, listen, I'm out, I'm trans. Like, you got to be inclusive, or I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
And it's like I've been fortunate so far, but still, like even when I go in somewhere where it's supposed to be friendly, I still get the abuse or the harassment. Like I just shared earlier that, a stranger I never met gendered me properly and treated me with respect.
Mhm.
5 minutes later, my own team that knows me for 18 months just totally misgendered me. I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, thanks for that. And it's just, it doesn't make you feel good. And I've got a CEO that said to me, being trans was not why I was hired, but he said the introspection that we all, because listen, the three of us and everyone else, when we're looking at our lives, right, and we're understanding and knowing who we truly are, and we embrace that and live authentic, I
It's a
can't
hard
speak
word.
properly. When we live authentically, right? He thought that introspection, if I could do that in my own personal life, I would be an amazing marketing leader here, right? And so he's like, you weren't hired because you're trans, but your process of what you did and made me think if you could do this here, you'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where it is.
Wise words. Wise words. Riley, if you just had, did I say Rively? I don't know. Our transcription software already can't handle your name for some reason. I always have to go through and edit your name on anytime someone says Riley, 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 Riley. Have you had any like blatant transphobia that you've run into lately? Kind of like, or are you still able to just kind of fly under the radar?
So not necessarily directed at me, but like I had to navigate a fun conversation one time in the workplace with another manager, and it was um I had to pretty much end the conversation at one point and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna be really just not in a great mood if we keep talking, so I'm just gonna have to stop this. Like, this conversation's done." Like,
Yeah.
and like it was like I think it was back, oh god, it would have been a little over a year ago, when it was like some coach was like, "Oh, I'm transracial now," and it was like, oh, okay, so that's not a thing. And he was trying to equate the entire like transgender, transracial like thing, and I was like, okay, please stop, please. And like, yeah, I don't know if you remember hearing that about that in the news, but yeah, that was, I'm like honestly trying to like not let my blood start boiling rethinking about this conversation. But like when I ended up actually coming out on LinkedIn, he ended up seeing the post, and like it ended up causing a whole like office argument apparently, because I was no longer at that job. So like it kind of caused like an office argument in a way. And one of my friends was like defending me and all this on it, and I was like, you know what, you're a true ally, I super appreciate you, like I'm sorry that your boss sucks. Yeah, I mean, like that's probably about the closest. Like I didn't directly have to deal with the aftermath of it, but like the indirectness of that particular situation is probably the most recent thing that I've had to deal with.
Hmm. Yeah. That's transracial. What the fuck
Yeah.
is that? That's not a thing at all. That
I don't
just
know
kind
if
of
these
broke my
people think
brain.
they're clever. I mean, do they think they're clever with that? I mean, is it something is it mocking? Is it cleverness? I mean,
It has to be
it just feels
mocking.
like it's just ignorant stupidity, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. It's like those assholes that say, "Well, I identify as a salad fork." Go fuck yourself. It's we don't identify as we are, but
I actually don't mind when they do that because I'm like, oh, here's another jerk to block. I'm like, you identify as like, a taco or something. I'm like, all right, bye.
taco.
I like to spin it and be like, I like to spin it and say, "Oh, so you're actually really progressive then, aren't you?" Like
Yeah,
like I have friends who are like, "I identify as a rabid raccoon," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I feel that."
Hmm. Yeah, no, I
yeah.
can get that. So yeah, there's a
I mean,
on LinkedIn. There's a non-binary person that is very raccoony. Is it Russia? Russia? I should know offhand, but I don't.
Rosha, yeah.
Yeah, Russia. They're hilarious. So, but yeah, they're the LinkedIn raccoon.
I know they are awesome. I love them.
Hmm. We have with us today Blair. Blair, if you'd like to introduce yourself really quick.
Hi, my name is Blair. I use he, they pronouns. I think there's a train going on in the background, so bear with me.
That's fine.
And I'm currently looking for work outside of retail to better my job prospects. So it's hard being trans and working at the same time.
It definitely is. And being in retail, everybody should be required to do either retail or food service, or as Lisa says, teaching for at least a year in their life, and the world would be such a better place because,
Oh yeah, we'd have much more empathy.
yeah, it's very hard. So I love your bow tie. It's adorable.
Thank you.
So I just have 3 questions for you. The first one is, has finding a career been difficult for you?
It has, in the sense that you have to go through the whole process of figuring out what job suits you, but also what gender suits you at the same time.
I can see that, especially when you're filling out, like if you're doing any remote careers and when they only give you the male or female options. So
Put you in a binary box and
exactly.
That's weird.
And it's like that's stuff that I never noticed before my transition, but now
No.
it's like, so I love companies that are actually more inclusive about that. So, how do you do your job search? Are you looking for in-person roles or remote roles?
I've been looking for a mix of both, but primarily right now I've been looking into like residence life jobs because I was an RA in college. I'm
Okay.
hoping to go like a step above that position and
Okay.
get a live-in role so I can get out of my parents' house.
You don't want to live in your parents' house for the rest of your life?
No, I really don't.
Blair. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But I mean, it's become normal now for people under their 30s too, just because housing is completely unaffordable everywhere you
It
go.
is.
So,
It is.
so what are you doing right now?
Right now, I work part-time for my dad for Prudential Insurance as a marketing assistant, and
Okay.
I work full-time at Dunkin' Donuts about 30, 40 hours a week.
That's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot. My next question is, do you experience discrimination at work? And I'm hoping you don't from your dad, but how about Dunkin' Donuts? Do you get a hard time there?
I get gendered as a woman very easily because I don't wear a binder when I'm at work because I
Mm,
work like 8 or 9 hour shifts and I really don't
yeah,
have
you
to
don't want to
do
do that.
that the whole time every single day. And it is kind of fun to confuse people because you either get like the ma'am with the voice over the headset when you're talking to people in drive through, or you
Hmm.
get like, ma'am, I mean, sir, I mean, I don't know, hi. And it's like, I wasn't trying to confuse you. I'm just trying to live my life. And
I just want
thank
to
you
give
for
you your
trying.
coffee.
Exactly. Just take your caffeine and go. Well, yes,
Exactly, exactly. Dunkin' Donuts, every time I go in there, it's just such chaos. Is it
oh,
as
it's in a
chaotic for the
madhouse.
employees as it seems?
Oh, yes, very much so. Yeah.
I
And
love.
everyone that's grumpy before coffee and after coffee and during coffee is as grumpy as you think they are.
I can imagine. Um, do you cook- d- do you make the donuts there in the store in the mornings?
No, we get them shipped in from a bakery in Lawrence now.
Oh, okay, okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure how that worked. So,
Yeah.
um, okay. And the final question I have for you is, since you've been on the hunt, what have you learned? What advice do you have for other job hunters? What do's and don'ts have you found?
I kind of find that if I keep my disability and my transness kind of quieter at the beginning, it's better in the sense that you don't really scare them off as much,
Hmm.
or you don't set yourself up to fail at the beginning, which kind of sucks. I'd love
Yes.
to just be like, I'm a trans man. These are my pronouns. Please
Hmm.
respect them. I have bipolar. Like, please understand that. But people will just be like very much not receptive to that unless you really kind of glean their tolerance for you and tolerance for people in general and figure that out from there.
It's hard. It
It
really
is.
is. So, yeah, it's like, do you apply as yourself or do you put on a facade? You know,
Yeah,
it's heartbreaking that that's even a decision that we have to make.
I
So,
know. It's
but
exhausting trying to mask for other people.
yeah. Is there anything else that you want to add while you're here? Any notes, any insights or
I
anything?
mean, don't be afraid to go by the name you want to go by at work, because my parents are slowly coming around to it at home, but at work, nobody cares. They're all like super fine with calling me Blair all day. So it's very affirming to be able to have a workplace that allows you to kind of be yourself on a different level than
Definitely. Okay, well, thank you for hopping on with us here. I'll be plugging your bit into probably about like halfway through the episode somewhere, but this is kind of an interesting thing. This is the first, excuse me. I'm glad you messaged me. This is the first time we've ever had just like a quick guest spotlight from listeners.
I'm excited. This will be cool.
Yeah, you'll see yourself on YouTube and you'll hear yourself on the podcast.
Very nice.
And
I'm gonna send it to my partners. They'll be excited.
there you go. I honestly think that this would be something fun for us to do. Have listeners pop on, you know, here and
Oh,
there.
definitely.
So,
It's a cute idea.
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
And have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Let's get into our own job hunting experiences. As I said, I've been doing this for way too long. My background, I ran my family's business for 13 years, and it's given me knowledge on how to do pretty much everything. So I've been focusing my search on people operations and culture roles with a little bit of search on operations. I ran the company in its entirety from HR to the marketing to I got certified as a forklift instructor. I did all the sales. I did all the inventory systems. I did fucking everything there. So it makes my creating a resume a little bit difficult because I want to have as much on there as possible as a generalist, because I want to show employers that I'm a girl that you can just throw at a task and I will figure it out, because that's what I've always had to do. But it does make finding jobs hard because I've had to edit my resume. I talked with a wonderful recruiter who gave me some tips, because my resume had my official title at that business, which is vice president, and she told me straight up. She said that right there is just getting your resume thrown out because it's just scary. It's scaring them off. So I modified my titles to be still like showing that I've managed my experience, but a little bit more reasonable. So that's one thing to keep in mind, especially if you are someone who has been kind of higher up on the ladder at a company. Adjust your titles on your resume for the positions that you're applying for. So I've been looking for roles from all the way up to like senior leadership to entry level. At this point, I'll take what I can get. I just need a paycheck really and get some fresh experience, because I think that is something that's working against me is my experience running that company. I left in 2019 and it was a manufacturing company, and so it wasn't really an online kind of thing. I didn't have to know all the payroll laws that are needed for a more remote setting. And that's stuff I can learn really quickly. I'm not afraid of it. But so my luck job hunting, I think I've had a total of 3 interviews now I think of it. But I got very far in the process for an executive assistant role, which is another thing I can do, because that's, again, I did everything. So and they started you off with with an assessment. It's like a 4.5-5 hour assessment that you have to do, and then they do the screening interview, which was kind of backwards. You should really do the screening interview before you ask someone to do a 5-hour assessment. But so I nailed that. They were very impressed with my work on that. And then the screening interview I nailed as well. And then the third interview was with the CEO, and like I was going into it pumped. I'm like, I have this. I know I have this. And I mean, I can't prove the transphobia here, but it was pretty evident. Um, the guy, cishet white guy, and got me on the call, and I think he was expecting a cis girl when he saw Vanessa. I don't think he was expecting this Vanessa to be on the screen. Is before I had done any vocal training as well, so it sounded like this when I was doing my interviews, which wasn't really working in my favor. But so I got through the interview. It seemed kind of awkward, but I still thought I did okay. And I very quickly got the no from them. And since I had gone that far, I'm like, look, I want to know why. So I reached out, and he said that I didn't fit their company's oath of growth mentality. And I'm like, I'm a trans woman. My entire life is about growth and teaching people about growth. I mean, look at my LinkedIn profile, look at my posts. It's all about growth. So, I mean, I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure I didn't get that job because I'm trans. So yeah, I've been job hunting as an out trans person since I started job hunting, really. So, and I could have started back when my legal name was still Jeremy. I could have started to apply as a male with my old name, with my dead name, and maybe I would have found a job that way. But I instead decided to present myself as I am and being very vocal about trans rights. And people keep on telling me, like, well, why do you mention, or ask me, why do you mention that you're trans in your resume and everything? Uh, isn't that hurting your success at finding a role? Well, yeah, but why would I want to work for a company that wouldn't want to hire me because I'm trans? So I put it out there, and it's definitely making my search more difficult. But I know when I do find something, I have a much better chance of finding a role at a progressive company that can appreciate me for who I am. So that's my job hunting story. How about you two? What have things been like for you job hunting while trans?
Thankfully, I also work in an industry that is in very much high need because I have done a lot of food service and retail, so a lot of hospitality. So I have had decent luck with trying to get jobs when I had my layoffs. Um, I You're probably going to be very jealous of these numbers, Vanessa, but like I really only had about 3 weeks of unemployment between jobs, um, both times. And I will say that this is also something that's probably working against you is the fact that, Vanessa being female, I will say that my partner has a lot of issues when they job hunt as well. And it's unfortunately due to I can absolutely see the difference in how if I apply for a job and when my partner applies for that same job,
Mhm.
I'll get a call before them.
I'm not gonna lie,
Just
I've been tempted to, for jobs I've had a quick no from, to send an application again with my dead name and my former pronouns and stuff like that, just to see if there's a difference. But sorry to interrupt, that just popped in my head. Go ahead.
No, but like that's exactly what I'm talking about. There are quite literally, I'm not even gonna lie, like my wife in their current position, like they are in a position where I actually applied for the job and then I got a different job. And so I was like, hey, like I had this recruiter reach out to me and I was like, hey, actually, I know somebody else that's interested. But like my wife had already applied for the job prior to the recruiter even reaching out. So it was like, why wasn't there any sort of communication to
Yeah.
them, even though they ended up hiring them, like my partner, like so like there's yeah, it's a legitimate thing.
Hmm.
So but I mean, overall though, I mean, I definitely will say like for me with job hunting, like the biggest portion for me now is always trying to not just find the company that's inclusive for the environment in the actual workplace, but like making sure that the healthcare is there. And like honestly, I've spent years trying to figure out the right wording on Google and waiting for the answer to appear on what to even ask about insurance without
Yeah.
completely outing myself.
Mhm.
Like I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. And I found out it's basically asking, and most times you won't get it until you have an actual offer letter there. But like you can ask what the exclusionary what's the term? The exclusionary what's the exclusions in the
Yeah.
insurance? Like what's excluded? And that's basically like my biggest thing because like when I accepted the position working at a stadium, I was like, sweet, this company is super, progressive. They have an ERG, like the whole 9 yards. Like I was really excited. But then the first time I went to go get my testosterone script filled after insurance kicked in, I got a letter saying, hey, we only cover it for hypogonadism. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, so like I've been trying to figure it out to how to ask it without obviously completely outing myself or
Mhm.
being like, hey, I just in case I ever have a kid who's trans or like trying to make up some sort of scenario that doesn't out me.
Yeah.
Because like the last thing I would want, especially if everything else about the job seems great, is hey, I give that I'm trans and they just decide, yeah, never mind, you don't get the job. And it's like I shouldn't want to take a job where that's the case.
Mhm.
But at the same time, bills are a thing and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I'll
hard.
take what I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, it's I'm in California, so you have option to do Kaiser, right? And Kaiser is one of the most trans-friendly insurances that I found. Not a perfect healthcare system, it's an all-in-one. So when I got to pick up a new script, I have to stand in line with like 50 other people. But I had a doctor there that had a trans child, so it felt really good, right? It's like I'm like, okay, I like this. Like
Mhm.
I feel seen. He left the system, and I've got a doctor who got his medical degree. I think we talked about that on the Marcia episode.
Yeah.
Left, and I got a guy from medical license in 1959 who didn't keep up with anything. And, now I got to go, and my endocrinologist gave me two really good trans inclusive doctors within that system. So I'm going to switch providers, right?
Good.
But like one of the first things I ask is like, what are your insurance providers? If Kaiser's not in there, I'm like, I'm not interested.
Mhm.
Because like Cigna, that insurance sucks.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I went through three doctors while I was at the previous streaming company. So I went through three doctors who were like, sorry, you never treated anybody like you. Like I felt like a Vulcan just beamed down from the science ship. So it made it really difficult. So I'm like, okay, Cigna is out. Blue Cross Blue Shield is spotty, depending on where you are. And I'm like, Kaiser, while it's got problems, is the best for me. But that's like one of the demarcations. Oh, no, Kaiser? Okay,
Mhm.
sorry, bye. And I mean, I haven't had the struggles, right, that Vanessa has, right, of that authenticity coming out and punishing her. Even though, like, for me, I still question, I'm like, God, is it the authenticity is worth it? But I still question, I'm just like, God, why can't I just find somewhere who just embraces me as me?
I know.
It just seems so fundamental, right? But then I think back and just think about other historically marginalized communities. I mean, like there's companies that probably still have in place restrictions on hairstyles or dress codes or stuff like that, right? Like there's all kinds of this stuff sitting in the market and you just got to be really choosy,
Mhm.
and I know when you don't have something, it's hard to be choosy. But
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, I'm a little bit more privileged, right? Like we talked about it. And I feel like I can be a little bit more choosy, right? Like it's not the right fit. I'm like, bye. I just can't take it anymore. Like I've got 7 years more work left and then I can retire.
Mhm.
But it's like I need to just not be hassled. Let me just do my job. And Vanessa, when you say you're kind of like a Jane of all trades, right? Like you're just a specialist in operations.
Mhm.
I find the same thing. I mean, everybody seems to also like the other problem, I think, is everybody's looking for these purple unicorns that fly, right?
Mhm.
And it's hard for like people like us, right? That we've had so much experience and had to like learn things from scratch. Like my first professional job, I had to learn HTML and start coding websites myself by hand,
I've done that
you
too.
know? back in the 90s, right? So
Yeah.
it's like back in the olden times. And, so I have all that experience and I still struggle with trying to communicate the message out. And I'm
Mhm.
also like you, where I come right out with it. I'm like, listen, trans, like right there, straight up. Like in the advice I got from a recruiter, and this was in 2020. So I had my old, dead profile on LinkedIn that LinkedIn just forced me to delete like 6 months ago. But I had my old profile up and she's like, well, if you're trans, put your dead name. Like, so when you look at my LinkedIn profile, you see my dead name
I
in
noticed
between my
that.
first and last name, right? That's because I had the shift, but I haven't changed my name yet.
Mm.
So they want you to represent as much as possible, right? So that's why I've got pronouns on there. That's why I've got the dead name on there to kind of connect the dots between the two,
I was
right?
wondering about that.
So they were saying that, like, if you're transitioning, be very transparent about it, right? And be upfront with it. I think that also works against us. But I mean, to me, so I'm very much like you, where I'm just like, I'm right out with it. I'm like, spit that right out, right? Because I don't want any kind of like misgivings. I want to be very transparent with it. And does it punish me? I mean, when I got that COVID layoff, it took me 5 months, and I'm telling you, it was like applying for like 10 jobs a week, for 5 months to get something,
Mhm.
and it was hard. And I think that transness kind of did have an impact on it.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's moving on to the next segment, just kind of segues very well with that. Next segment is advice and tips and stuff like that we have for job hunters. One of the big things that both Rylie and Taryn brought up is insurance. I honestly haven't gotten to the point of even having to worry about insurance with with a job because I haven't gotten that far in any of the process. But that is a major thing, and insurance is crazy. Also, depending on what state you live in. Like Rylie and I are in Ohio, and a lot of the insurance companies discriminate against trans people. They're not allowed to, but they do it because I think it's less hassle for them to maybe pay out a lawsuit here or there than it is to actually deal with us. Um, so like, yeah, you have to find the right insurance. And for me, like I have my bottom surgery coming up in a few weeks. If I were to get a job that's somehow between that period, I'd have to tell them, look, I need to keep my insurance that I'm on for the rest of this year. And so I would say ask the HR department if that's an option. If you're on the Affordable Care Act like I am, it's easier to pick and choose with ACA companies that are going to cover your care, because you can actually go through all the plans and compare and contrast when you're selecting. That's why I picked Oscar Insurance. Last year I used Summa. I'll probably go back to Summa next year because with Oscar I can't go. I have to pay out of pocket um, for my trans doctor. And so every appointment cost me $700, which is fucking insane. But I couldn't get the surgery under the Summa Care, so I have to go back and forth. So pay attention to your insurance and make sure it's okay that if you do start with another company and you're on insurance that works for you and their insurance won't, some employers aren't going to let you stay on your insurance because they have all these package deals and stuff like that. So that could honestly kill the experience for you. Other tips I've come across: keep your resume simple. You don't need photos. You don't need all that stuff. It's one of those keep it simple, stupid kind of things. Be sure you don't refer to yourself in the first person at all, except for I believe you can do it in like the summary at the top. But it should always be third person. Be very careful with your language. Be very careful with typos. It's a good idea to have a different resume sent to every single employer. For mine, I write in my headline, I put in a little plug saying applying for blank position at blank company. And then you save the file with your first name underscore last name, and then dash the name of the company. Save it that way for your resume. It's all random things that I've heard, but hopefully it helps. But don't do what I did and apply to a potential dream role where you forget to edit out the role description and company of the previous company that you applied for and send it to the company dream role that you applied for. So yeah, oops. Other things I found, you want to use actual like figures and numbers. So like say if you increase sales by 30%, put that in there. If you reduce employee churn by so many people, put that in there. They want to see numbers. They want to see things that you've actually done. So my resume now has all that stuff. And explain away any gaps that you have. Gaps shouldn't be held against you because we are humans and we should be able to take, not have to work our entire lives. But again, that stuff's used against you. I've also heard for every 10 years that you've been in the professional world, you can add on a page. So my resume is 2 pages. It's packed. It is small text all packed together. But so yeah, keep it simple. And another thing that this is a lot of extra work, and honestly, I'm not very good about doing it. You can have AI help you with this, but it's Taryn was talking about the purple unicorn. A lot of these, because your first obstacle is the ATS system. I did it again, the ATS, and it's going to be searching for certain keywords that your resume has to have that match up with the job description. The problem is you don't know what these keywords are. The keywords can be different for every company. It could be completely arbitrary, and only the company knows what they are. So I have heard that it's a good idea to take some keywords from the job description and modify your resume a little bit to fit those. But I'm not gonna lie, that's fucking hard. And it's hard to be able to find what you need to put in there. So what I've done, I don't know if this is good advice or not, but I've looked for some general words that I see a lot in the different roles I apply to. And I just modified my resume to have those particular words. And I'm hoping that helps. But again, you're up against thousands of people when you're doing remote work. When you're looking for in-person work, frankly, it's going to be easier. But then with in-person work, you also run into the safety concerns. Like, I cannot get an in-person job around where I live because it is just too dangerous. It's dangerous for me to leave my house, just go to Starbucks, let alone go to a company. I could be assaulted because I'm very visibly trans. So it's hard out there. Those are the tips that I have learned from my search. I'm sure there's more, but it's a lot, I know. That I've been told not to cast a wide net, but I've gotten to the point where I just kind of have to. So like Taryn said that, she was sending 10 resumes a week. I send 10 a day sometimes. So,
Yeah.
And it's a full-time job. It's exhausting and it wears you down. You are going to run into periods of severe depression. It happens to me a lot where I just get in a hole. I feel like I'm worthless. I know I'm not. I know I have skills. I mean, I got this fucking podcast up and running off the ground from just an idea that a couple of people had. I know I can do shit, but
Right.
And trans people are resilient. We have skills like emotional intelligence, because we have to fight every day for our survival, which makes us very, very good in the workplace. A lot of people have talked about, I believe Erica talks about that a lot. So yeah, off my soapbox, those are my tips. And how about you two? What do you have for me?
So I think you had you did hit a couple points I'd make too. So resume shouldn't be more than 2 pages, like period. Like even if you've got 30 years of experience, you got to keep it to 2. Some other tips that I do, and I've been working with an amazing recruiter in New Mexico that's been helping me rewrite mine. And I rewrote mine after 15 years of not like editing it other than name.
It's hard.
And yeah, it is. And I mean, one of the points that you hammered on, which I think is incredibly critical, is like in a performance-based job. So like when you did something and you saved 30%, or you managed a product or a program that that costs $18 million or something, right? Like you drop those numbers in there because you want to have that statement, that bullet point be like, here's the problem, here's what I did, and here's the savings, here's here's how I launched on time, or I did something like, and I've got tons of that stuff, but here's my problem is I'm super long-winded. So my resume was really
Same.
jam-packed too. So I broke it down. Some of the advice I've seen from others is your bullet points should be not 2 or 3 sentences a piece. It's got to be one sentence, like a compound sentence, like but one robust sentence that talks about problem, solution, result, right? And just keep it really, really basic and to the point. I have heard a lot of what you've said from others about kind of redoing your resume per job. That is really labor intensive. I don't particularly do that. I narrow the field that I'm looking at, right? So I'm one of these people even before transition that if I didn't meet 90 to 95% of the requirements, I didn't apply, right? And I know that's something that cisgender women struggle with, right?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, I had that like even before transition. It was like I had that imposter syndrome, and I know that it's like they said men, I think cisgender men, they'll apply for something if they meet 70% of the requirements, and I'm like, that's obvious because I've worked with plenty of those people. But it's like, so be really focused on your industry. Like you and I are both like where I've done specialist work, but I've also done a lot of operational work and a lot of generalist stuff. Like I know a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff.
Same.
Right. So like I have to be very judicious with where I'm going. Right. So that makes it a little bit harder. So I don't send 10 a day, I send 10 a week because I'm really focused on those efforts. Right. So I'm like, I try to make it the biggest bang for the buck with that. But be brief, just that paragraph you do, keep it to like 4 or 5 sentences, a sentence per bullet point, with the issue, the solution, and the result. And that should really help. Even like for you, Vanessa, like technical skills, like having a section of like what you've done, like what you know from a systems perspective or an operation, like an OS or applications you've done or something like that, or a certification, right?
Yeah,
And then for the
certifications
rest
are
of
very
it,
important.
for the rest of it, put it on LinkedIn, right? And just for me, I'd say the one tip I just add on besides that is if you're comfortable, just lay it out there first, right? When they do I think it's an EOC, the equal opportunity or equal employment, like when they do that, like I've seen a lot in California where it's like male, female, non-binary. So I select non-binary, and then the second question is, are you trans, right? And then I like answer that. Just be upfront with that, because sometimes what you submit to them could be grounds for dismissal, right? So like if you don't disclose like a disability, I mean, they can like, I think, I don't know if it's legal per se, but I think people can look at what you submit as like a statement of like truth or fact and just be like, well, you didn't tell us this when you got hired, and that's like withholding that information. If you can be transparent, right? And start that relationship off with transparency, honesty, and just go from there.
I want to plug on, before I get to you, Rylie, I want to plug on something that the recruiter I was talking to, because I asked specifically about those EOC questions. And because sometimes people say, do not wish to disclose on everything. And you can do that if you want. She told me that especially because there are some that you'll apply to that are going to straight up ask you what your sexual orientation are, what your gender identity is. And she said, if they're asking that, they care. They're a progressive company that are legitimately interested in it. So just answer it away. So before I used to always just put, prefer not to disclose, but now I put female. I'll click transgender if it's on there. I always click not a veteran because I'm not a veteran. And I click yes to a disability. So because, hey, why not? And as Taryn said, it could be used for you or against you. So Rylie, how about you? What do you have for us?
Well, I'm not going to take credit on this one, but when you were talking about explaining career breaks, I had seen this thing recently that talked about if somebody asks you about a career break, just say you signed an NDA, because they can't ask you then anything about it.
That's an amazing idea.
right?
Fuck.
So,
Yeah.
that one will be very much in your favor, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but honestly, I had another thought on something that Taryn said, and I can't remember what it was because I
Don't
was
you hate
trying to make
that?
sure I didn't lose the NDA thought.
Sorry.
No, I was trying to retain both, and I got so caught up in the one that I forgot the other.
Come back. I hate that. You'll remember at 3 in the morning.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're like, fuck.
Jump out of bed screaming it.
But if you remember, just leave a comment on the YouTube video or something. So don't
Yeah.
text me. Of course, I'll probably be out with my kid who doesn't sleep. But yeah.
I mean, I think one thing that we haven't said, the three of us, right, is really the network.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know a lot of people who don't use LinkedIn until they need a job. And I'm like, that's not the time to prime your network. Like Vanessa,
No.
use Discord, and Rylie, I don't know if you've seen this, but like I'll share job boards that I stumble on, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
take a look at these. If you need something, if I'm connected to somebody, reach out to me. Let me make an intro. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like use your network, use the people that are your supporters, your allies, your friends,
Yeah.
right? And activate them to help you. I mean, I do that all the time. It's like I'll help somebody, not expect anything. Then when I need somebody, I know somebody's always there.
Mm-hmm. It's use LinkedIn as a resource. I did what Taryn just said you shouldn't do. My LinkedIn was dead until I started my job hunt. I had, I think, like 300 followers or something, and now I just breached 2,000. And yeah, I was proud of that. Um, and you engage with people, and when I what I mean, my voice has stopped working. What I mean by engage is don't don't just like something that you read, or just don't comment like awesome or I mean, sometimes you can do that too, it's fine, but when you contribute to something, a post that someone has, actually contribute something, do something, say something thoughtful, something that actually contributes to the conversation, because then other people will find that insightful, and then you will find your network growing from there. Post frequently, but don't post too frequently. They say like 3 or 4 times a week. Try not to use any more than like 5 or 6 hashtags, unless you're already an influencer. Like you'll see like some of Liam's posts, and Liam puts a shit ton of hashtags on there, but Liam is a top 10 voice. So what you see like the top people voices, don't follow what they do. Keep it simple. And just try to increase your reach. I just learned recently, don't put links in your post, put links in the comments. Um, and yeah, if you have a rapport with some people that are bigger influencers, you can tag them, and I've noticed that helps as well. But the main thing is just interact with people and build your network by contributing to the conversation, because that's what LinkedIn pretty much is. It's just conversations, and people that are spewing their brain candy, getting their ideas out there. I do some posts with that too. Like I've done posts on, my experience with people in operations, where as a leader, I found the most important thing to do is to listen to people. And my dream role is a position where I can go into a company and just transform the culture from the bottom up. But the up is going to have to listen to what the bottom says. So I don't even know where I was at this point, but yeah, as Taryn said, build up your presence, and don't wait, because it's really hard to do while you're job hunting. Because job hunting can already be a full-time job. Building up your social media presence is also a lot of work every day. It's slow, it's hard, but it will benefit, because now, I mean, before I just had my connections were just like my vendors and customers at my previous job. And now I've met all these wonderful people. This podcast came from myself and other people having connections and becoming friends. Like everyone on this podcast, we're family now. So yeah, it can not only help you with your career, but it can also enrich your life. Yeah.
I mean, it provides future opportunities, and it's like, I mean, I don't post them as much on LinkedIn in the last month or two. I kind of backed away from it because the algorithm shifts, right?
Yeah, it's
So it's
bad.
like unless you're an expert, I'm just on, and you see me. I mean, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Threads,
Mhm.
and I'm enjoying it.
Threads.
And once in a while, I post something about work or why we should replace CEOs with generative AI and not marketers.
Mhm.
So I'll post something like that. It's an intriguing, challenging thing, and then
Mhm.
because I don't really like, I'm not supporting like LinkedIn's your grandmom's platform. Like, I just can't support like what they're doing in the silencing. It's
Yeah.
just funny because I see a lot of people now tagging into that, like, oh my
Mhm.
God, I'm like, no, really? Like, speak to a trans woman or trans man. You'll see, you'll see that the silencing has been actually longer than the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's been
Yeah,
like months.
I
Yeah.
believe Liam is going to be doing an episode on that soon. It's very smart. I canceled my LinkedIn Premium because I'm like, why am I spending $43 a month for an organization that's just not that's doesn't have my back? So because LinkedIn Premium is
Yeah.
expensive. It's very expensive.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got it just because I want that full on thing because I
Hmm.
need to have that access. But it's like, other than that, I'm like, yeah, LinkedIn's your grandma's platform. Like, bye. Eventually you'll be replaced by something better.
Yeah, exactly. Riley, you got anything?
Honestly, I don't.
Hey, it's honestly
You guys have hit on about everything.
okay. Well, I didn't want to talk over you.
No, you're
Yeah,
okay. I'm being upfront. Like you guys have hit on about everything I was gonna probably pretty much say. So
it's yeah. I guess the overall advice is just hang in there. If you need to take a break from it, take a break because
Yeah.
your mental health is important. Um, it's hard. It's very hard. It's draining. Um, you're gonna get a lot of no emails. I've been getting less no emails lately and more the position has been filled emails. So I think a lot
Yeah.
of cases the the companies don't take the job postings down. They just leave them up. So you could be applying to jobs that already have someone in it. So which sucks, but what are you gonna do? Searching for jobs. There's some websites are easier than others. I really like. There's a website called OTTA, OTTA. It's great for tech jobs, and it's updated frequently. Sometimes the jobs are a little bit older, but I've done most of my job hunting with that. LinkedIn's job search is just bad. I'm not gonna lie, it sucks. Like you'll, I want to search for a people and culture role, and so you do even put it in quotes. You put search for a people and culture role, and it's not gonna. It doesn't just pull from the title of the role. It pulls from the body of the job hunt. So like, if the job says that like just the talking about the company, we're a group of people that have a culture of culture stuff, and but it's going to pull that out. So you do search for people and culture, and then it's just going to bring up all those random things that don't apply. What I found helpful is if you find a role that you like and you apply to it, then on the LinkedIn page, click. They ask you if you applied to the role, hit yes, and then it'll pop up a window saying, "Do you want to see jobs similar to this one?" And that's how you do it, because then it's going to give you a much better curated thing.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing you'll find that's really annoying, like if you there's certain companies that you might want to look at, you can go to the company's page and click on the jobs and see what they have. But sometimes they'll have this exact same job posted 250 times. So, because they'll have it like focused in different, it's like remote roles. So they have, this job's in Charlotte, this job's in San Antonio, this job's in Cleveland, this job's in San Francisco, but it's all the exact same job. So you have to sift through all that nonsense to actually find a different position that they're doing. So that's kind of an annoying thing. As you job hunt, you'll be filling out resumes on different work platforms. You will quickly kind of realize that Workday sucks. Some of them are like Lever is amazing. Some are just super simple. You just enter your information. You can paste your cover letter into a lot of them. Use your cover letter. I don't know how well it helps, but it can't hurt. And use a cover letter, even if it's just the same one every time, whatever. Um, but like with Workday, you're gonna have to create an account, And then you're going to go in and you're going to have to enter in all the information that's already on your resume, enter it into future windows, which is a pain. Workday, from what I've heard, is very useful on the employer end, but it's horribly designed for job hunters. So just be prepared for that. So
Yeah, I think a cover letter is good. Like that's where I might do the personalization, right?
mhm.
Or talk about maybe I disclose like gender identity or where I'm living or what kind yeah, I like add in that color commentary. But yeah, recently like I've hit a couple that really popped up on the feed on LinkedIn and in the last 3 months, and I've got a lot of sorry, thanks for taking the time to apply. We filled the position, but we just wanted to let you know. And I'm just like, oh my God, please spare me your AI automated machine, like email where it's like, sorry, thanks, bye-bye,
Yeah, you will
and it's
get
just yeah.
you'll get a lot of those. Though I would say maybe 5 to 10% you actually hear back from an actual person. And when I get those, I write back to them saying, thank you for actually responding to me and
Mhm.
not sending from a no reply email. I said, that means a lot to me and it says a lot about the company. And I've actually
Yeah.
plugged the company for that before because it's hard. Um, and yeah, there's something else I was going to say.
My favorite is when you interview, they turn you down like in an automated message, and then they send you a survey link. Tell us about your experience. I'm like, yeah, hold on, it's like this. I
Yeah,
didn't know how that's working. I'm like,
no, employers don't do that to people. Um, and if someone goes through a lengthy process of interviewing, don't send an automated email. Have someone reach out and just give a reason why. What, like, if there's a red flag, say it so that applicant can learn. Because otherwise,
yeah,
I mean, it's almost like getting broken up with. It's hard.
don't via text message.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard.
Or getting ghosted.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens all the times. Professionally ghosted. Like, or sometimes, like, I've had no emails come in like 10, 11 months after I applied. I actually, like, what
Mhm.
job is this? I'll search my mail folder and be like, I applied to this 2021. Like, oh, no. So, um, if you don't hear anything back uh, within probably 2 weeks, I wouldn't expect much from that. So, a quick note on cover letters. I have a standard cover letter that I use for a lot of things, but there's sometimes roles that I will apply to that I find a need to do a cover letter very specifically for that role. Like if it's at a company
Mhm.
that I have a lot of passion for, that they have a mission, I will go into that. So, because I I would say I'm a job hunter in two ways. I have the wide net that I cast in order to maybe I'll catch something, and then I'm very focused. And the focused ones, I go and I tailor my resume and I tailor my cover letter and stuff like that when I find those kinds of roles. So, but I think both ways are valid because you're trying to find a job here. It's hard, but stick with it.
All good tips.
Yeah, we're up on our time now here. Do either of you have any closing thoughts?
Now, these are just good tips. And if you need anything and you're listening to this, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to help where I can, share job boards and stuff like that. And if you like what you hear on this podcast, for the love of the goddess, smash the subscribe button.
Yes. Yes. Riley, do you have anything?
I was just gonna say, same thing. We have a lot of advice, a lot of tips that were in this episode, but there's always one of us that will probably gladly talk to anybody if they reach out to us. So,
Mhm.
whether it be industry specific or just general job hunting questions, anybody can reach out, and we'll do what we can to help you guys.
Yeah, it's easy to get a hold of us too. I mean, you can either find us individually on social media. I'm everywhere as Fenestradiol. But just go on our website, transcendinghumanity.com. There's a contact form there, and that just sends us an email. And we get those, we read them. I usually respond. And sometimes, like, if there's questions from somebody, I'll just copy and paste the email into the Discord and let everybody, let all the co hosts and stuff and our guests kind of chime in, get an idea on that. So, yeah, as Taryn said, hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends, please tell your friends. We're growing, but slowly. It's hard to grow a podcast, but I know we can help so many people. The feedback we've received from people is wonderful. Having Blair on this episode shows that, you know, we have an impact. People enjoy us enough to want to actually be on the podcast, which that's super cool. So again, thank you to Blair. Most of our listeners are on Apple, please rate us 5 stars. You can leave a review as well. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. When you comment, it brings us up in the algorithm because it means that people are interacting, and it also kind of helps offset the trolls. So, which it's always funny when it comes to like trans rights and stuff like that, where some idiot will post, "Who cares?" Well, actually, asshole, you do, because you found this random video from like Transcending Humanity has 71 subscribers on YouTube right now. My personal YouTube channel has 217. They're very, very small channels. And the fact that someone found it means they're actively searching hashtags. So if anyone ever says, "Who cares?" and you're not a huge influencer, just throw it back at them and say, "Apparently you do, because you found me. You're here." So whatever. But okay, everybody, thank you again. Tell your friends, please. When you see our posts,
Smash that subscribe button.
subscribe. Smash that share button when you see our stuff. We post on Instagram, we post on Facebook, we post on LinkedIn. We don't have a TikTok yet because, frankly, Rylie, you're the youngest of us. I'm too fucking old to figure out TikTok. I have a TikTok. I am no fucking good at it. We need some Gen Zers on the show. I need to do a casting call for some Gen Z and let them take over that shit, because Gen Z, they're just the fucking miracle workers. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for episode 18 of Transcending Humanity. I don't know what the next one's going to be. We're going to be recording some episodes in advance for me to set releases when I have my surgery, so things are going to be kind of all over the place. So I don't want to say we have a topic and then it not be the topic, because I've done that before. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining us on Transcending Humanity. Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.